how far do we as Americans need to go to protect that wall? Like, is it, are the dangers so high that children spies, Jeffrey Epstein, if he was an intelligence asset, sex, like the craziest, most PDF file type shit, like there is no thing we shouldn't be willing to do for the greater good? Or do we draw a line somewhere?
The switch track question, I would say, is really how much do you want to remain America's largest superpower? If you want to remain the world's largest superpower, if you want to remain the world's largest superpower, you're going to have to accept the dirt that comes with being the biggest bully on the playground. You're going to have to deal with the fact that we have some corruption. You're going to have to deal with the fact that we cheat our closest allies. You're going to have to deal with the fact that we hide and cover up things at the highest levels of leadership, because the myth of the country has to be so powerful that others fear us. General Petraeus became the director of CIA. We were talking about that earlier. Yep. I had the privilege of being one of his workout buddies. Everybody who was Petraeus' workout buddy was really just a big kicking dog, because the dude only did one workout every day, and he had been doing the same workout for 30 years. So he could kick your ass on eagle push-ups or eagle sit-ups any day of the week. It was just insane. But what was cool is you got this time with the general whenever you worked out with him. He would never work out with the same person 5 days in a row. It would be like you're his every other Monday person, somebody else is his Tuesday person, whatever else it might be. So I had this time with the general. He gave me this speech one day while he was kicking my ass in push-ups. And he was talking about how powerful the mythos was to him being an effective general in the army. And he was like, I do the same workout every day. He's like, you work out with me enough to know that this is my workout. So of course I'm better than you. But he's like, I'm not doing this for you. I'm not even doing this for me. I'm doing this for every new recruit who joins the army who finds out that their general kicks everyone's ass. That's why I do this, because that new recruit isn't going to stop to ask themselves the question, well, maybe that general just does the same 5 exercises every day. Instead, that recruit's like, fuck yeah, my general kicks everybody's ass and he's 60 years old. I could be like that. I could be the general. That's America. We kick everybody's ass. He's like, I need to motivate that person, because that person joins at a rate of 25,000 new people a year. It's like, I don't have to worry about the lieutenant colonel who knows my secret, because lieutenant colonels retire at a rate of 200 every year.
Right.
So where's the focus? The focus is on making sure the mythos motivates the masses. And that was such a powerful message to me, because I was like, holy smokes. Here's a guy who lives his personal life around shaping the myth about his personal capabilities to motivate others.
So this feels like the very question that we are going to have to contend with, which is social media has killed the mythology. Everything is so in our face. You can read a book, watch a podcast, whatever, about all the behind the scenes stuff. Like there's this book by James Burnham, which I talk about endlessly, called The Machiavellians, Defenders of Freedom, which people do not pay attention to that second part, and they just hear Machiavelli and they think, all bad things all the time. And he's just saying, look, the world works a certain way. And if you're not being honest about how the world works, you're going to be constantly surprised. And so the book is about, this is how the world works. And it's really gross and it's really ugly and it's horrifying. But it's very much the reason that you will always have a group of elites is, like you said, people aren't going to show up to vote. But it's also because there are people that are, they're smart enough and they are morally gray enough that they want control of the narrative, and then they want to give you the pre-masticated narrative that for a very long time, depending on what country you're in anyway, it really was better. And just like you said, blue pill, just, hey, let me do this thing. I'm going to be just up on the wall. I'm going to make sure you're safe. And then I'm going to lie to you about what America is in this case, but everybody's going to be doing it in their own country. I'm reading endlessly about Xi Jinping in China. And bro just says, obviously in private conversations, but he's like, listen, propaganda is real. We have to be very careful about the story that we tell about China, and that China is basically mandated by heaven to rule the world. He doesn't say rule the world, but lead. And it's like, I'm like, yeah. And the big problem that we're going to have in the coming decade is if America tries to out China, we will lose. We are not in a place right now, because of the populist moment, to lean into freedom, certainly not as one giant collective. There is a huge contingency clamoring for all the control-y elements of, EU, I'm looking at you, baby, and China, like that whole like scan every DM, all of that stuff, which is absolute insanity. But we are going to collide with a power that is unflinchingly saying, I'm going to manipulate you top to bottom. We're going to talk about it openly in the Politburo. But within that, we're going to talk about this openly. This is what we have to do. Everybody, you got to repeat this ad nauseum. And then in America, and I think rightly so, but we're going to have to figure out how to make this work to our advantage. We're like, no, if you say some bullshit, I'm going to say that's bullshit. I'm going to call it out. We're going to talk about everything openly. We're really going to look under the hood and we're going to get to what's really going on. But the problem is elites are still a real thing, meaning there's only so many people that are intelligent enough and interested enough in pre-masticating the narrative and feeding it to people. And then the vast majority of people just want to fall in love, have some sex, eat great food, raise their kids, like make some money. And so you get into this weird dynamic that we're in right now, where we have to decide, like we have to consciously say, I know this is mythology, but I'm still going to lean into it. And if America cannot stop telling itself the moronic mythology of we're like these evil slave traders, then we're going to implode. Like whatever we do, it's going to be mythology. I am well aware of that. But we've got to wide-eyed say, I get it's mythology, and yet we're still going to decide to lean into this. Otherwise, we're going to get our asses handed to us by people that have a positive vision of who they are as a people, regardless of all of their foibles.
I often call this the adolescence of the United States. That's where we are. If anybody who's ever been through adolescence knows how uncomfortable that is. There's the belief that you're still a child and the crashing reality that you have responsibility. And the worst part about adolescence is that you know it's going to get worse. It doesn't get better. Adolescence, many of us would kill to go back to adolescence, to be like, oh, are you kidding me? All I do is smell bad and have pimples on my face, but somebody else still pays rent. That'd be great.
Right.
We never go back to that ever. So in the journey of the United States, we forget we're not that old. We're less than 300 years old. We are at a place right now where we're kind of in our adolescence. China's 5,000 years old plus. Russia's 3,000 years old plus. These are countries that they went through adolescence a long time ago. It's like putting a 13-year-old up against a 40-year-old. Does a 13-year-old have advantages? Yes. So does the 40-year-old, right? I remember when I was in college, we used to joke about old man strength. Being a 40-year-old guy who's got a pot belly but is somehow still strong. Yeah, he's got 40 years of body mass that he's grown. He may have a pot belly too, but he still has one good fight left in him. You know what I mean? So we have to figure that out as a country. Are we going to understand that the childhood dream, the myth of being a child forever is over, and now we have to make some big boy decisions, some big girl decisions. We have to put on our big kid pants and move forward.
CIA believes that all people are born with a spy secret superpower. For some people, that means they can win deals. For others, they can spot liars. Some can even seduce lovers. I built a free 3-minute test to help reveal to you exactly what your secret hidden superpower is. All you have to do is click on the link in the description below, take the test, and start using your spy superpower to stay ahead of 99% of people.
And, by the way, it's not going to fix itself overnight. You're going to have pimples for a long time, right? We're going to have boners and sweatpants for a long time until we figure out how to deal with this. That's just the way it's going to work. I don't believe that China and Russia have done it right. I believe that they have done it for a long time. I don't think that they've done it right. Because at the end of the day, when you put a volunteer professional soldier against a conscripted, uneducated ruffian who has barely been trained, it's not an equal fight, right? And that's how the United States has always worked. We've always worked off of our warfighter killing 10 of their warfighters, our tank killing 10 of their tanks, our aircraft downing their aircraft carrier, right? That's how we've always calculated, and that's how we've been successful. It's how we were successful in the American Revolution. It's how we were successful in World War II. It's where we had success in Vietnam and Afghanistan. It's where we were able to leverage that advantage. Where we didn't have success is where we were not able to leverage that advantage. So as we look to the future, we have to be asking ourselves, what do we want as a country? Do we want to be a country that collectively stays ahead of everyone else? And then if we want to collectively, and that's a question. There are plenty of people who don't think that we should be a superpower anymore. There are people who think the world will be a better place if there are 3 or 5 or 7 countries that are all equally wealthy equally sophisticated, equally innovative. I am not of that ilk, but there are plenty of people who are still asking themselves, do we want to be equal? And then, whether you do or don't want to be equal, how do you get there? How do you keep that? You can do it by swallowing the narrative. That's how other countries have proven that they can do it. You can also do it through revolution and through constant fighting. You just have to decide if that's how you want to do it. Do you want a revolutionary change, or do you want a more controlled, productive change that takes longer?
Yeah. The bad news is history tells you if you choose the revolutionary angle, you are going to have a strong man come to power. America is basically the only example of where a guy was like, yeah, no, I just want to retire.
Yeah.
So I'll do this one round as president. I know I could be king, but I'm just not interested in that. And I'm going to peace out back to my farm.
Once.
Now, once.
We had it one time.
Yeah, exactly. So Trump would run again if you let him. So those days feel like they're gone. Okay, so you want America to remain a superpower, at least that's what I inferred from
Without
what
a
you were
doubt.
saying. Okay, so I see us as we're on a Thucydides trap collision course with China in no uncertain terms. China's aware of it. I'm reading a book called On Xi Jinping right now, and his cabinet has used the term Thucydides trap before. They understand what's happening. Xi Jinping is becoming more dismissive, literally as a policy, more dismissive of America. Because he believes that we're the declining power and that they're on the rise. It is merely a matter of time. This is me stepping inside his shoes. It's merely a matter of time before America just cannot defend its position anymore. He doesn't believe that we collectively have the will to try to maintain that position anymore. And to your point, I'm not sure that he's wrong, unfortunately. But if you had, a moment on a mic where you could like make a pitch, what would that look like in the face of the reality of if we will let it, China will become the global bully, the biggest bully on the playground. They're not going to be like, let's just do this together, bro. That's not how history says this will play out. So what would be your pitch?
I would have two pitches. I would have the fatalist pitch and the hopeful pitch. I am of the hopeful pitch. And my hopeful pitch is China's already doing this. They already believe we're going to crack. They already believe we're going to break. They already believe that we're on the decline and that decline is not going to get righted. That's what they already believe, which means we know what they believe. But they don't know what's really going to happen. We can change it at any given time. And if we change it, they have to react to our change, which means we have the advantage in first mover advantage in business and military, everything else. So we have every opportunity and every advantage to change the trajectory that we're on. If we don't, we just do what they already say we're going to do. And that's like the most embarrassing thing in the world, is to literally walk into the trap that somebody else placed in your path and know that you're walking into that trap and do it anyways.
Yeah.
That's my hopeful pitch. My fatalist pitch is start learning Mandarin Chinese. The second most spoken language in the world is Mandarin Chinese. Not by a little bit, but by a lot. The primary difference between the group of people who speak English and the group of people who speak Mandarin is that only 25% of all people who speak English speak it as their first language. 75% of all English speakers speak it as a language they learned after their native language. Mandarin is the other way around. 75% of Mandarin speakers, it's their native language. Only 25% of speakers learned it as a second language. So you can see this, the two populations are almost the same. The big difference is how much had to learn the language to succeed versus how many were born with the language. If you want your children to succeed on the current path that the United States has, you need your children learning Mandarin Chinese.
That's wild. How do you think we should be using AI in this fight? I know. So my whole thing is AI presents significant risks, but when you look at it, game theory tells you China's going to keep developing it because it'll be the most powerful weapon that's ever been developed. It will dwarf nuclear. So it is going to be developed. And the only question is, are we going to join the arms race or are we just going to let it happen to us? But you've also got the UK government saying, and the EU, we're going to scan all your DMs. We're going to be all up in your business. So are you like, yes, that's what we need to do? Or is there some other way that we should be thinking about AI?
I've always been all for AI. I've also been all in on transparency. Even if you are cheating on your spouse, lying about your taxes, and carrying a second phone so you can talk to your girlfriend, Let it all be known. Let it all be known to the
government or to
government.
everybody?
To the government.
Got it.
Because somewhere out there, there's somebody using a second phone for something different. And somewhere out there, there's somebody using banks and monetary systems actually for nefarious purposes. And when the government sees that you're cheating on your wife and cheating on your taxes, they don't really care. They'll let you keep your $2,000 that you embezzled from your tax refund because it's not worth it to them to pursue you when there's some ultra wealthy person who's embezzling $100 million. So they're going to choose the other person, but they need to have access to everything in order to find the other person. If you choose privacy to protect your little lies, other people are using the same privacy that you're protecting to protect their big lies.
How do you reconcile that with what you said earlier, though, which is the government's not here to protect you, they're here to protect themselves. And they will weaponize that against you the second you give them a reason to. And if that reason is simply you're speaking against them and you're causing them problems, oopsie, you're having an affair, suddenly comes out, oopsie, your $2,000 thing, like, yeah, it wasn't a big deal when you weren't bothering me, but you're bothering me now. And I am going to bring the full weight of a tyrannical government down on you.
So I absolutely said the government's there to protect itself. I never said its intent is to weaponize the government. That is something that I understand people are concerned about. It is a valid concern. The trick is to maintain the balance between being transparent and never being the target. Because here's the thing, even if you are hiding your affair, even if you are hiding your tax embezzlement, if you become a target, there is no resource that people won't use to destroy their target, especially if it's the federal government or whether it's a law enforcement agency or if it's a foreign intelligence service. So whether you're transparent or not, once you become a target, you're fucked. So the goal is to never become a target. That's the number one thing you have to do. If you want to speak out, then put that target on your chest and let yourself be brave and be the martyr, and hopefully you achieve the change that you want to make. I would argue that there's more efficient ways to get what you want without making yourself a target. That's what espionage is all about. Affecting the outcome that benefits you without ever being seen in the process. I'm a huge believer in the fact that we all have that potential and that capacity. I believe it so much. I have a business that teaches people how to do that, right? Don't be the threat. Be the person that everybody overlooks, but still be as transparent as possible, because the only way that they're going to find the distraction instead of you is if they have full access to everything.
That's interesting. I hate that answer, but I'm going to have to sit with it to see. I mean, listen, I don't have an easy answer to that one. So, yeah, okay, I'll spend time with that. But I just don't trust the government, and I assume that they're going to be as tyrannical as the day is long, and that they will go after people randomly, not randomly, but they'll go after people. Like COVID-19 was just such a wake-up call in terms of the government gets some ridiculous idea.
Yeah.
And then they will go ham. And because the government is made up of real people, and there's some huge percentage of Americans that they want to, like the DSA, Democratic Socialists of America, or Association, I don't know which, anyway, the DSA, they want to abolish the family. They actively say you should seek a totalitarian government, that the DSA should be in every aspect of your life. Like, it's just wild. So I'm like, this all sounds horrible. I want none of this. This is like, to use we're in our adolescence, this is like a child wielding the weapon of an adult. At least China's like, listen, we know how this game is played. You guys just won't shut the fuck up. So we are gonna have to kill a few of you, but only a few. And then it's all just with this in mind. These guys are just nut jobs who somehow think that this is all gonna work out. That was not an advertisement for China, P.S. I think they are both horrifying. Okay, so having said all that.
Well, the thing to keep in mind too is a tyrannical, I agree, we're heading down a path of a more authoritarian, more tyrannical, less justice-based government. I think that's the direction that we're going if you take the temperature today. The temperature can change tomorrow, it can change in a week, it can change at the midterms, but that's the temperature we have. We're looking like we have a fever. That's what it looks like right now, right? I need more cowbell. But we don't only have two options. Our options are not revolution or shut up and color. We also have an option to leave. We're Americans. We have one of the most powerful passports in the world. You can always leave. And one of the few arguments that I loathe more than any is when people say, oh, I can't leave. I can't leave because I have too much responsibility. I can't leave because I have too much debt. I can't leave because of whatever. I don't make enough money. I've been hearing this argument from people forever. People who don't like living in Florida, but refuse to move to Georgia, whatever. If you care enough, change only happens when the pain that you feel is greater than the pain of the change itself.
Yeah.
So if you want to sit and bitch and you don't want to leave, then you don't feel enough pain yet.
Yeah.